Not sure how world building became the third rail of literature, but here we are. In a world where people on TikTok will look you dead in the face and complain about there being too many words on the page and explain very calmly that they read 300 books a year, but also they don't read exposition. They only read dialogue because that's the only thing that's important. That is the reading landscape we find ourselves in today. This is a landscape where we have so-called fantasy book lovers who will proudly say that they do not waste time with description and world building, that they know what everyone looks like and the world looks like, and they don't need the author to waste their time by telling them. Who could have possibly said such a ridiculous thing? Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Kristen, I have heard you say something very similar. Are you backtracking? Are you recognizing that exposition dumps are actually a good thing? No, the nonsense-free editor does not believe in exposition dumps. However, those of us who offer writing services all live in fear of the time where we stick our foot in our mouth so badly that we get Krimsonrougue and Hello Future Me united to decry our ill-thought-out tweet. And that is exactly what happened to the CEO of StoryGrid last week. Above all, readers want to know what happens next. Action and dialogue fill that need, while description, which includes world building, does not. Description puts the brakes on a story. It slows the reader's experience learning what happens next. It shows a lack of trust in readers by not letting them imagine the world in their heads, building from small doses of description from the writer. Effective description, including world building, is provided in very small doses, just when the reader needs it to understand what's going on. Readers will skip paragraphs of description, but rarely paragraphs of dialogue or action, or they plow through the description and tell their friends the book was a slog. Well, Tim, yes, but now some of the best tweets on Twitter, the ones that get the most traction, are the ones that kind of have a black and white view. This, however, wasn't it. And Krimsonrougue had something to say about it. This guy is the CEO of a company that claims to help writers develop books they can be proud of. And just like that, I question any value StoryGrid can bring to the table. Characters and world building are what give a story an identity. World building, in its many forms, is vital. Yes, very true. And Hello Future Me, who was also named Tim, said, the weirder thing is I saw him rewrite some guy's description of a chair to be arguably worse. Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. To which Krim replied, I think I found the post you're referencing. A simple example or not, it was not an impressive piece of writing. The problem with setting up plotting and world building as a binary, one valuable, one not, is that you're kind of missing the point of writing. And that's a problem if you're running a writing services company. So, given that I have been vocal in my irritation with exposition dumps, I thought I would try to take a more balanced take on Tim's tweet. Why it's right, but more importantly for this video, why it isn't quite right. Let's dive in. Hello, Shameless Writers. I'm Kristen McTiernan, the nonsense-free editor, here coming to you with my most comfy cautionary tale hoodie from Star Wars The Last Jedi, purchased before I bought it, to announce that I am now solely and exclusively the nonsense-free editor and am no longer toiling in my hideous day job as a federal employee. You have me all to yourselves now, folks. And with my newfound freedom, I will be dissecting the tweet by Tim Grahl, CEO of StoryGrid. Now, prior to this tweet exchange, which didn't make a huge splash on Twitter, but it was there and I noticed it and it made me think quite a bit. Why do we need world building? What is it? And what happens when you go without it? Now, before we get too deep into it, let's talk about why exactly it matters that this particular person tweeted this. This wasn't just your regular reader expressing their opinion. This wasn't even just a regular author expressing how they personally write. This is the CEO of StoryGrid. And if you've never heard of StoryGrid, which I hadn't either, I had to go look at it. It seems like this is an information site primarily for writers, and it wants to teach you how to write. A lot of this is free content. It's blogs, it's videos, which are also available right here on YouTube. But they make their money with a workshop model, which I'm very fond of. If you're learning to do something artistic that you get better with iteration over, the workshop model is better. So as far as Story Grid itself and the content that they have and the system that they have for plotting and the way that they teach their people and what they receive money for doing, I have nothing bad to say. I haven't taken any of the workshops, but from the model that I've seen, their user interface is a little busy. It's not great, but what they offer seems to be solid. Their core mission also seems to be solid. I loved their copy that they had on the front page. All those write a book in 30 days hacks, the beat sheet formulas, the self-publishing schools promising instant Amazon fame. You've seen the ads. Maybe you've even tried a few of them. But if you're here, you already know. Finishing another draft isn't enough. You're not doing this to check a box. You're doing it to create something lasting. That takes real skill, not just inspiration, not just persistence, skill. Skill. Like weaving world building in with plot, not sacrificing one or the other. You're going against your core mission there, Tim. And seeing the furor and the backlash that has come as a result of his tweet, I've been a little reflective. It made me realize that I've been a little bit black and white on the subject too. I tend to be a more terse writer, but part of that is because of who I'm writing to, the genres that I'm writing in. I just got off a wonderful call with a epic fantasy author, and he specifically asked me about the pacing and the presence of info dumps, which I did trim a little bit in this manuscript. Is it too much, he asked. Were you bored? Is there too much world building? But the thing is, when we're talking about epic fantasy, you must have a lot of world building. You are creating a whole world. You are creating the monetary system. You are creating the religious system. You are creating the tax system, the nobility hierarchy, even sometimes the days of the week. Patrick Rothfuss gets a lot of crap because he's just seemingly decided not to finish his Kingkiller trilogy. We're all so grateful. We're all so grateful for you, Patrick. But the reason we're pissed, the reason we're mad, is because he is a case study on how to skillfully weave world building, extremely extensive world building, in with a tight plot and outstanding characterization. In the first book, we won't talk about the second book and the fairy fucking. We talk about that. Much of what we see on social media these days is targeted at the, we'll just call them casual readers, especially if you're on Book Talk or Bookstagram. They want to know what they can get through very quickly, because a lot of these bookish creators, they're not actually readers. They're not people who love books. They're content creators. That's their job. And so they're not really marinating in the world. They're not really spending time with the text. They're certainly not analyzing the exposition. I'm not hating on these people, by the way. That's not how I read, but I understand if this is your job, you're going to go a little more quickly. That's fine. But pretending that authors should tailor their writing to this particular model of consumption is folly. And I think people were so angry with Tim and what he had to say in his tweet is because they felt that they were being lectured to and told they were wrong for not catering to this particular type of consumption, which I don't think it's unreasonable to call shallow. Now, why is world building important, even if you're not writing fantasy? World building is the foundation for believability. It's what provides the foundation for making it feel real and lived in, even if you are writing in a contemporary setting. Let's say you're writing about Memphis, Tennessee. You're writing about one of 3 white people at the school. Memphis is majority Black, if you didn't know, and they have a poverty problem, we'll put it politely. I've never been, but I haven't heard good things. I would rely on the author of this book to tell me what Memphis was like. This particular type of Memphis. What's the school like? What are the social aspects like? What are you supposed to wear so as not to get your ass beat going to and from school? What lingo do they use? Logic dictates it will be different than the lingo that I used, say, in Oklahoma City in the 90s, because each place has their distinctive flavor. And even if it takes place in the here and now, the technology is the same, the cell phone is the same, the characters and where exactly they live will be different. And you, the author, need to build up that world so we feel like we're a part of it too. Verisimilitude does not come exclusively from action and dialogue. It comes from the world. The world building also gives us the context for the characters' actions. Where they live, what they experience, and who is around them makes what they do reasonable or not. World building can create a sense of place that draws people in. One of the things that made Dennis Lehane's books so loved, yeah, they were, police procedurals, a lot of them. They were well written in general. But Boston was a character in those books. Now, I visited Boston. I've never lived there. I certainly never lived there when, the Irish were still kind of running the place. He did. And you can tell because he tells us what Boston was like, the Boston police force, the Boston PI, the seedy underworld of who's running what. That's all world building. The way he paces it is different. The way you pace a thriller is different than the way you pace an epic fantasy. So like I said, skill issue. It's when you don't have the skill that you need that world building is a problem. Except it's not really the world building that is the problem, is it? It's your schlocky use of it. Excessive description can slow down the story. Why are we dwelling on the exact shade of scarlet Milady's scarf is? Why are we talking about that? Is there some symbolism there? There isn't? You just really like that color and you like fashion and you want to tell us all about it? Okay, that's fine, but this is a historical romance. Tell us about the satin scarf and then keep moving because we're here for the day. Oh, my parents don't watch that. Info dumps are bad, particularly when they come in the first 2 chapters. No one likes that. A reader isn't even sure yet who they're supposed to be rooting for. So why are you giving me history that happened eons ago? Who am I supposed to care about? What story am I following? In those cases, you are keeping the reader from what they came here to read, and it feels like false advertising. You don't want to frustrate the reader. But skillfully done world building doesn't do those things. Part of the reason that StoryGrid's workshop plan is the best is because following a specific formula isn't necessarily right for all books. So the common refrain for researching and world building is the iceberg technique. Okay, so 90% of how your world works, but you only share 10% of it. Maybe that works for your book. Maybe you need to share a little bit more. I dare say I strongly suspect more than 10% of the world building was shared in something like In the Name of the Wind. Whereas in my own paranormal mysteries, yeah, that's probably about right, because it took place in the here and now. And what you really needed to know in book 1 was that there were witches. What you needed to know in book 2 was that there were different kinds of witches, and you were only allowed to talk to some, but not others without risking your life. And then in book 3, you got a deeper dive into specifically Mexican witches, which had a hierarchy all of their own. You did not need to know that in book 1. So I would say that the 90-10 rule worked really well for me with paranormal mystery. It would work less well with epic fantasy. And that's where the skill comes in. Like all skills, expertise comes from practice. Practicing reading in your genre and in others, and practicing writing over and over again, having other writers review your work, whether in something like a critique group. By the way, we'll be talking about Critique Circle in future videos, doing self-editing, and of course, with the editor you hire at the end of the process. It's only with those multiple iterations of writing, editing, rewriting that you get a feel of what the pacing needs to be and how you can skillfully weave in world building without sacrificing the plot. It's not a zero-sum game. They are meant to work together, not separately. If you have a finished book where you need feedback but not necessarily a full edit, I announced in my last video I have my novel Launchpad, which is designed to be more of a critique and then a marketing plan for your novel launch or your relaunch if it's something that's been out for a while and didn't get the traction it deserved. It might be because the pacing is off. You paced it for somebody else's audience, but not yours. The novel Launchpad is designed to kind of address those issues. So if you're interested, I have 2 more slots available for May, and all 5 slots are available for June. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and click the link in the description, and I can help you out with that. So that's all I have for this week. Until next week, take care and write well.